Hey everyone, Vector here. Just a little bit about me. I am a scalping momentum trader for those that don't know me and are first time. Just let's take care of a little bit of homework before we get into content. But sure to follow me on Twitter at Spectre_trades, and also if you would like and subscribe to the video that you see here on YouTube. And everything that we talk about here, I'm going to make sure that there are links for the different resources at the. You should be good there. And then the tools that I'm using in this, I'm using Thinkorswim that is now owned and run by TD Ameritrade. The option flow you're going to see comes from Black Box Stocks, and the watch list levels from Edamomo. And so let's, with that said, let's go ahead and go right into. Okay, so what you see on the screen here is on the right side, you're going to see the on here we have the option flow. Now this is from a Black Box Stocks. I've clipped the window so that we can see the charts and the option flow together. And then on the left side, you're seeing the Thinkorswim, and on the left here I have the stock, and on the right I have the option contract of it. So looks like I'll have to update this, but I'll do that shortly. And so that's a little bit of the background, and now let's go into what happened with Disney and how to bank option level. So there's two trades that were set up on Disney, and the first one is if you look at the watch list levels, and you can see here that it had tagged at the open at 172, and there was some negative news, and it had dropped down from the earnings report. And so the first trade here was just, hey, you know what? It's tagging right here. It's starting to flush, getting short, anticipating that if this broke the 170 level, then we might get the one down here at the 167. So we're just we get short, buying some 170 puts, and as it drops, locking in gains quickly, right? Because this is like what, 15 minutes, and let me bring up the contract on the 170 puts did. Okay, so, and I'm just typing this on the another spot in Thinkorswim, and I'm just waiting for charts to load up. Okay, here, up, over, and you can see here the puts, 170 puts at the open jumped in right here in the first few minutes. You could have got in around $2.50 or so, let's just say, and risked 50 cents, and it went all the way up to 350 very quickly, right? And so it broke. You lock when it hit the watch list level, maybe hesitated. You lock in some here at 310, drop some more, maybe lock some in at 350 because it's fast gains. I always lock in gains quickly on the first in the first move especially if I jump in right at the open. Normally I don't trade trades in the first 15 minutes, but in this case it kind of made sense with the way the watch list level set up, and so I'm just kind of doing that, and then stopping out if it breaks back up and over. And so when it broke back below 3, stopped out on the rest, right? Because if we don't want it to come back over the 370, 170, right? And when it started doing that, I'm like, hey, what's going on here, right? Like I have to see, is it gonna reject VWAP, continue downwards, or is it gonna get above this, right? And then this is where the actually, I'm sorry, I'm looking at next week's. We're looking at 14th. My bad, guys. I thought the numbers seemed. But anyway, so yeah. So if you got in here quickly, you would have been able to get in at 80 cents to $1, and then sold for like $1.60 to $2 into that big move. And then when it came back right here, and crossed back over, that'd be roughly $1.40, $1.60. Want to cut it. So that's the downside trade, right? Then when it held at the 170 level, that's when I said, hey, let me take a look and see what they're doing. Let's take a look at the option flow, right? And so that's when I looked over here, right? And let's scroll down, and you can start seeing here that that they started buying these 172.50s right around 11 o'clock, right? So if you look at where the chart is around 11 o'clock, so this is the first trade is done, and I was hawking for more downside. It didn't set up, so then it's no trade, right? And then we're just kind of letting it go. So then it's consolidating, and then we saw here around 11 o'clock, hey, they're buying the 172.50 calls, right? And so you start looking at the watch list level. Hey, it says 173 is resistance. Now what happens if 173 clears? We may rip all the way up into 179 or 178 over here, right? And so if they're buying the 172.50s here for like 60 cents, I mean, if it gets to just test the 173, at worst, I'm going to be able to break even right here. And if it goes through, there's a chance that I could get like, $5 on this. So this has got me kind of interested, right? They kept buying it. And at this point, getting long at say 50 cents, you take a half size and go, hey, you know what? They're right. That's cool. I'm in at 50 cents or 60 cents. And let's bring up the contract for that. And you can see what that looks like. Watch that. Okay, let's give me a second. Okay, and I gotta change. All right, perfect. Okay, so right here, right around then, this is where it started holding, and I'm like, hey, I'm kind of interested, right? I grabbed some at 50 cents, and then I'm like, hey, you know what? If I'm wrong, I can lose half, right? And my thinking on this was like, hey, if this gives me $5 and it does do a gap fill, I could turn that into a potential 50 grand payout, right, with 100 contracts. And so I'm like, hey, I'm going to take a start, and I started off with half, right? I think I started off with half, but anyways, let's just use this as the scenario, and that was the goal, and let's not worry about exactly what mine were. But let's just say that your goal is for that gain over there, and you're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to get in here at 50 cents. If I can get filled 50, 60 cents, that's what they're buying, and there's a chop. And so you go to get in. Your stop here could be like probably 30 cents or 25 cents. So I just did half, right? And let's just use, let's go ahead and use if you did 50 contracts, right? And that's $2,500 bet, risking half, which is $1,200. Okay? And then you're just kind of watching it to see what it does, and it pushes up over $1, or maybe you locks them in. That's a quick double, right? Lock in half. And then as it comes back and starts going again, you're like, hey, you know what? They're still buying it, right? And then they're starting to buy the 175s. So when that starts happening, you can reload on these dips, right? And then start scaling in back here at 80, 90 cents or $1. And then say you double your position, right? So you came down to, you locked in half or maybe more, then added some. But basically at this point, you're kind of scaling in. And let's just say that you scale in, and now you have you're at the 50 original plus some profit, and then you end up adding more 50 down here, then you add another 50 here, so you end up with 100 contracts. Risk stops at 75 cents, right? And your average, right, from 50 cents and $1 would be 75 cents. So now you're risking you're basically risking profit, right? Because if you had the 50 contracts and you're up here, you're what do you call it? Made like 20, maybe $1,200, but let's not look at that. Let's just look at the overall average. Now, you've got a 75-cent average, 7,500. You're in for $7,500. Your stops, it's now sitting at $1. You might have like $2,500 unrealized, right? And then at this point, you have about 5,000 unrealized. So maybe you lock them in, maybe not. But the big thing is your stop should be right around your new average, right? And you're now saying, hey, the watch list level says it could go up to that 178 if it really gets going. And the market has been strong all day, and it just keeps going. So you see this call flow kind of coming in, but you also see some puts, but they're longer dated puts. So they're not saying, hey, this is going down now. They're saying, hey, you know what? We're willing to bet that this is going to come down sometime for October, right? So our thing is that, hey, if this breaks out over high a day, and at this 173, there's a chance that it can run, right? Today, we're not worried about October. We're worried about what happens today. My momentum and scalping idea. And so so what happens then is you can see how this runs, and now it ran up to $2, right? You've doubled, right? You got more than double. So you just, as a rule, you would just start locking in. So if you had that 100 contracts for the 75-cent average, and you start selling around $2 to $2.20, half off, you're locking in over 5,000, 6,000, actually about $12,000. Not locking in. You're up about $12,000 to $15,000, and it all started with risking $1,200, right? So there's a few lessons in here. There's and then it fails, and then you just put a stop here. If it goes down and breaks back below, say maybe $1.80, and you lock in, and you still made $1 on the balance, right? Maybe not max gains, but if maybe you had 50 contracts left here, 5,000 there, maybe sold 50 here at 220, and that would be what, $1.75, 5,000, probably 7,500 or so. Yeah, so I think at the end of the day, probably $12,000, risking roughly $1,250 down here, and you end up making 12,000. That's a great risk reward, right? Now, it doesn't come from just one bet; it comes from the process, right? And that's not even counting the money that you locked in over here. So, yeah, we didn't get the watch list run, right? We didn't get the big payout that I was hoping for, but you could use the levels. Okay, able to use the levels, able to use the option flow here, right, to help guide your decision making, and then it's a matter of defining good risk reward, right? So in this case, it was, hey, am I willing to risk 25 cents on my start to see, right? And then when it starts looking like it's right, hey, am I willing to risk this unrealized $2,500 or $5,000 in profit because there's a potential of making $50,000. That's a personal decision. That's something you have to decide for yourself, right? Locks them in or takes them off, but at the end of the day, you got to figure out what's worth it, and then you just say, hey, I've already did this. It's fast. It's getting into the last hour of the day. It hasn't gone up here yet. I'm going to start locking in because there's profit taking that happens in the last hour, right? And that happens a lot. And so you're kind of like going, okay, I'm going to go ahead and start locking in these gains, give it a chance, buy size down, and then you're like, hey, my work is done for the day, right? You don't need to take a lot of trades all day long. But this is one trade that using the option flow, using the watch list levels to guide, it's two trades, right? The first one being the morning short, the second one being after the consolidation and seeing option flow, where could it go? How can I maybe make money off of it? And so that's Disney. That was an amazing setup. You can just look at that bank, right? Almost once the original position it was in, and you add for the average once it starts working, your risk was to your average. Never came back, right? Came back this one time right here after this push, came back and then started going again, right? You had opportunities, and even if you missed the original, you had another opportunity. And at this point, this is when you saw the 175 call orders. So, they're saying, hey, people are thinking this could go up. and we had a good risk reward with our average. So that's Disney again. And now there's a Tesla trade I and so on Tesla, okay, let's scroll down. There's a lot of flow. Now in the morning, the what started happening is so here's another great example. Tesla dropped right into this watch list level and the red to green line, solid yellow line. Again, that comes from on watch list levels. And you can see how it's like, boom, right to those levels, right? This got a double bottom, and now this is like at 10 o'clock, and then it starts coming back over VWAP. So now let's take a look. So hey, what option flow is there? They're buying, there's some put flow, and then there's 575, 585 calls, and some, I think I saw some 600 calls coming in for next week, and then 600 for this. And I was like, hey, you know what? I kind of like this setup because of this double bottom and this move over. And you know, so I'm gonna look at possibly taking some calls, right? And so then I'm looking at this and I'm going, hey, you know what? If I'm gonna take this long, I think this is gonna work. I'm gonna basically take a tight stop, and I'm going to say, hey, you know what? If it gets to this 595 or $6 area, and let me take a look at the 580 calls, right? Sorry, guys, got stuff in my throat. Okay, so now to the 580 calls for this first. Let's okay. So this is now right here. Look, it's $6, $5 or $6, and I'm like, hey, low days $4. There's some call flow coming in, and there's also put flow, but because of the way it was setting up, I was like, I just wanted to make sure that hey, are there people also buying calls? And there you can also see here. Oh, I don't have it up. There's also decent call flow volume versus put flow volume. And let's take a look, right? So after 10 o'clock, you can see these call flows coming in. Then there's some in the money puts, and then as more time came in, some more calls, but then also some of these puts, right? To me, at that point, it's kind of a mixed, and the interest I had was that I saw these above the ask, right? Orders, right? So that's kind of got me interested for when I decided to take a position in the morning. And I didn't alert this because I still was kind of worried that there might be a yank, and I was completely wrong because there was put flow there. And so, but I decided to make that bet, risking this, and then you can see a nice rip on there. That's one trade. And going off the watch list levels, and then using whether or not there was additional bets leaving in the same direction around the same time that you're looking at, right? And so that worked out nice. Then in the afternoon, right, we had this dump. So this was right around after 1 o'clock. Roll up, all this other option flow, and you can see here all this call flow started coming in, the 585s, right? And this was at 126, and I can't remember what time I alerted this call. Look and see if I can. Okay, that was at. Okay, sorry about that, guys. but I think it was $1.50, $1.30. So you can see that they were started in $1.71. So it must have been, I think it was right off the low. Yeah, it was right about here. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the chart. I think they were buying it here, and then I wasn't interested until this, so it was around 2 o'clock actually. Right, so I saw this buying earlier going, and they were saying, hey, it's going to rip, and then it yanked, and then right around 2 o'clock, it was started dropping, but then it came back, and I was watching the price action, and then I was like, you know what? This, if I'm right that they rip it into the close, right? Because this didn't break hard and it didn't dump under 570 quickly. And so the way I was watching the price action, I was like, okay, you know what? I think this is going. And so then right around 2 o'clock, I had recalled that they were buying call flow over here, right? And because of that, I kind of had this in mind. And then you can see here, right around 215, they started buying some 600s and 585s, right? And this is right over here, started buying that. So this is when I alerted. I was a little bit earlier. Not again. Part of it is because I don't necessarily look at, hey, what are they doing right then to follow the idea. I kind of pay attention to what were they doing over time, and kind of keeping that there's certain, that's helping me understand, hey, there was demand, right? That they were interested in something, and that's why I was able to kind of spot this reversal earlier, is because I kind of knew that there was some upward pressure, and I could figure out, hey, there's a good risk reward here. I'm like, hey, look, if they're right, and I'm right that there's going to be a squeeze into the close, 595 is the watch list level, and the 600 area, and that's how I was targeting it. Going, if this all happens, is it worth risking $1? Because if I get in the 585 calls here, and it goes to 595 to 600, I'm going to make 10 to 15 bucks, right? And since there was also puts, there could be some shorts trapped. And so I thought, hey, you know what? It's a good risk reward, right? I can risk $1 because if this plays out, or 50 cents. I mean, I think I was getting in around $1.30, $1.50, and I was risking to $1. But I said, hey, you know what? The math works. That if a person buys up to $2, I still think they can make good money on this, right? And so then let's take a look at what happened with those 585 calls. Right? We're saying here, this was the thing saying, hey, buying up to $2, right? And you can see it never really came down after that alert came. Just started hauling ass. And by paying attention to what were they doing in the call flow, in the option flow, right? I was able to combine that with the price action and the option, and the watch list levels, to kind of gauge, hey, where could this go, and is it worth the risk, right? To me, it was worth the risk because there's a huge opportunity here. Didn't get there, but we still got from $1.50 to $5, right? $6 actually, $6.50. It's a great risk reward, right? And so that's how I use the option flow. I don't always go, hey, there's a ton, and I'm going to chase the option flow. I'm kind of looking for the option flow to confirm how I see things happening in relationship to the watch list, right? So that's my process. There's so many different ways to use option flow, and this is one of many. And the folks at Black Box have classes around how they use the option flow to. And you should definitely take a chance if you're not a Black Box Stocks member right now. It's well worth the investment and the tools and service to use that option flow. I use it regularly. It's great, right? And then if you're wanting to learn more, the team that at Black Box also shares a number of different ways of how to trade options. And so it's a great investment, absolutely great investment. And then also with regard to being able to gauge where stocks are going. I mean, I publish a watch list daily with watch list levels. And for subs, I've been providing this watch list code, so you don't have to draw the lines out of your charting platform. So there's code for doing this in Thinkorswim and doing it in TradingView. And you can see, like, these watch list levels are crazy. They work well, and you can help use them to guide your trades or ideas. So I hope this video was helpful to everyone. Don't forget to like and share, especially if you did find it useful. And I hope to see you guys next time. So thank you for your time.